Part 5. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 41. A large amount of air was pulled out of the battleship, like a gust of wind. Binghua stabbed the flaming sword in his hand into the metal ground under his feet to stabilize his body so that he was not blown out. After the air was completely extracted, Binghua rushed into the gap as soon as he stepped on the metal floor. The surrounding environment instantly turned into a 4-meter wide silver-gray metal walkway, and the light falling from the top made everything here clearly visible. Binghua squatted on the ground, and when he looked up, he saw a group of soldiers holding guns and wearing metal armor pointing their guns at him. Fire! After receiving the order, the soldiers aiming at Binghua immediately pulled the trigger. Suddenly, the black firearms in their hands spit out half-meter-long purple energy beams like machine guns. Binghua's dark eyes condensed, and he immediately rolled to one side to avoid the intensive energy beams coming from him, and then quickly rolled back and jumped several times to avoid the waves of beams coming. Then Binghua rushed into a metal walkway beside him. Seeing Binghua dodge the concentrated fire of his soldiers with dazzling movements, the captain of the soldiers raised his hand to signal to stop firing. Then the soldier captain stretched out his hand and fiddled with it a few times. The soldiers who were squatting on the ground and wearing power armor consciously stood up, crouched and began to search forward. But before these soldiers could get close to the metal walkway that Binghua entered, the wall beside them suddenly made a sound of metal twisting and creaking. The sword blade glowing red suddenly pierced out from the metal bulkhead, and then quickly cut a rectangular red mark 1 meter long. Boom! The next moment, a red rectangular metal bulkhead was cut out and kicked away from the inside, sending a gun-wielding soldier flying out. Then a figure that was very familiar to these soldiers appeared. She quickly rushed out of the metal bulkhead with a rectangular breach and threw herself into the middle of all the soldiers. The flaming sword in Binghua's hand in the air was a horizontal swing, passing through the waist of a soldier wearing power armor, directly cutting him in half, and the broken part of the armor was as smooth as if it had been cut by a high-temperature beam. There was originally a huge gap in physical fitness between the two sides, but now that these soldiers were approached by Binghua, who had amazing swordsmanship, there was no need to say much about their fate. I saw the flaming sword drawing several splendid red lines in the air, and the civilized soldiers affiliated with Tiangong in power armor around Binghua lost their heads one after another. In just a second or two, Binghua eliminated the few soldiers who came forward to investigate the situation. However, Binghua didn't relax yet, because there were still 7 or 8 soldiers staying in front. Binghua flapped his wings behind his back to provide himself with a lot of acceleration, then stretched his legs forward and slid his whole body forward close to the ground, avoiding the beam barrage flying overhead. The flaming sword was lifted up, and a soldier holding a gun had his gun and hand cut off by the sharp sword. Then Binghua raised his leg and kicked out. With a bang, the power armor worn by a soldier dented directly, hit the metal bulkhead hard and slowly slid down. Binghua took advantage of the kicking time to readjust the edge of his sword and thrust forward. The tip of the flaming sword penetrated the body of a soldier on the side and came out through his back. Binghua suddenly raised his head and a purple beam of light flew past his face. Then Binghua's body flipped flexibly in the air. The moment he landed in a squat, his left hand casually grabbed a fallen beam rifle on the ground and threw it forward as a hidden weapon. A soldier who was holding a beam rifle and pulling the trigger to fire was suddenly knocked away by the beam rifle thrown by Binghua. Then Binghua turned around with an indifferent expression and slashed down, diagonally cutting a soldier behind him who had just raised his gun into 2 halves. The soldier who had just been knocked away by the hidden weapon thrown by Binghua had just adjusted his body from flying around in the corridor when he saw Binghua pointing a beam rifle at him with one hand. Binghua smiled coldly at him and triggered the unknown model of beam rifle in his hand. A beam of light shot out from the head of the gun, turning the last soldier in the corridor into a hornet's nest. After killing all the enemies behind the aisle, Binghua threw away the beam rifle she picked up. She still felt that the flaming sword in her hand was easier to use. Then Binghua quickly left the corridor filled with dozens of corpses and large amounts of blood beads, and rushed towards the bridge of the battleship. And when Binghua wreaked havoc in this giant battleship, the battle outside was also fierce. Most of the female angels are new recruits, and those with combat experience like Binghua are still in the minority. Every second, female angels are sacrificed in this cold universe. These inexperienced angel warriors were either killed by the battleship's secondary guns or space fighter planes after concentrated fire, or they accidentally bumped into the large beam emitted by the battleship. The commanders of the 4 legions sitting in the command room of the Skyblade battleship felt very uncomfortable when they looked at the countless angel warriors who had lost signs of life in the projection. However, as commanders, they forced themselves to become indifferent, because as long as there is a war, there will be sacrifices, which is an unavoidable problem. Sister Binghua, the sisters have broken through to the fleet group, please give instructions on the combat mission. Binghua, who was rampaging inside a flagship of an unknown civilization, stopped his movements and answered in the secret communication. Okay, all angel teams, please pay attention. I am the first level escort angel Binghua. Next, the sisters will break into the battleship in a team of 5 to destroy the enemy's battleship. You must also pay attention to your own safety. After Binghua finished speaking, she hung up the secret communication. As this was her first time commanding a battle, this was the only thing she could do at the moment. Then Binghua continued to use the flaming sword in her hand to roughly cut through the metal bulkhead in front of her and continue to rush forward, while the metal bulkhead behind her was full of big holes cut out by the flaming sword. 2 minutes later, Binghua stood alone on the bridge of the flagship. The dazzling red alarm lights flashed crazily. The ground on the bridge was full of humanoid creatures lying in a pool of blood. How to operate? The flaming sword was leaned on the seat beside him. Binghua stood in front of the unknown operating interface and touched his fingers, not knowing how to use the interface in front of him. Forget it, just do whatever you want, it won't matter if it hits something. As he spoke, Binghua stretched out his fingers to pull all the pull bars on the operation interface to full value, then pressed them randomly, and finally clicked on the button that seemed to be OK. At this time, the bridge door suddenly opened, and dozens of soldiers wearing power armor rushed in, all pointing their guns at Binghua, who had his back turned to them. You just came, but it's too late. I won't be here to accompany you. After Binghua finished speaking, he spread his wings behind his back, picked up the flaming sword on the side, smashed the glass outside the bridge and flew out. In an instant, a strong suction force came from the broken glass. The soldiers who had just entered the bridge were sucked into the vacuum of space outside the bridge before they could react. I didn't sleep well yesterday, so I have to go to bed early today, so there is only one update. In addition, the signing contract for this book has been issued. I beg all book friends to support this book. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 42. As soon as Binghua flew away from the giant battleship that he had wreaked havoc on before, he couldn't help but look back. The energy column sprayed from the giant battleship's engine instantly grew 2 or 3 times thicker, pushing its huge hull forward. On its forward trajectory, there happened to be a battleship that was 1,000 meters away. Seeing the battleships from the same camp rushing towards it like a mad cow, the battleship was unable to avoid it. The next moment, the 2 warships collided, and the collision area was suppressed for hundreds of meters on the spot, followed by a huge explosion and a huge shining fire. Seeing that this tactic was effective, Binghua continued to look for the next target. Just as Binghua destroyed the 3rd space battleship, hundreds of spaceships that looked like medieval warships broke into the battlefield. At the same time, countless male angel warriors wearing coxcomb gladiator helmets, bright silver chainmail, and holding alloy spears rushed out from these warship-style spaceships. Sisters, be careful. The male angels have entered the battlefield. They usually work in teams of 4. Sisters, please do not split up and fight against the enemy. Seeing this, Binghua quickly reminded the female angel warriors under his command in the dark communication channel. As soon as Binghua finished shouting in the secret communication, 4 male angel warriors flew around her. Hey, look who we found. Such a beautiful female angel will definitely get a heavy reward if she is presented to King Hua. The leading male angel said with a smile on his face, and the other 3 also laughed and agreed. Binghua put down the left hand covering his ears, looked around at the male angels floating in all 4 directions of him, and spoke in a cold tone. They really looked up to me. They surrounded me when I came up. Then Binghua didn't say much. When he met an enemy on the battlefield, he only had one word to say, and that was kill. The wings on Binghua's back moved upwards, and the male angels surrounding her in all 4 directions immediately chased after her. Binghua was not idle during the flight, looking around at the chaotic battlefield around him. Occasionally, Binghua could still see the corpse of a female angel warrior floating quietly in the universe with a layer of frost forming on the surface of her body. These are all female angel warriors directly under Binghua, because this battlefield is the area that Binghua is responsible for attacking. Binghua gritted his teeth when he saw this. If he didn't see it, he might not feel anything. But now that he saw the corpses of these female angels who died in battle, an emotion called hatred inevitably arose in his heart. The hatred for male angels and the hatred for the civilization affiliated to the Tiangong order is because of their existence. Binghua can no longer hear the voices of those dead female angels calling her sister Binghua. Suddenly, out of the corner of his eye, Binghua saw a bit of cold light rushing towards him from the side. As he was flying, Binghua reacted and rolled violently into the air. The bright silver cone-shaped spear tip scratched a long and narrow scratch on Binghua's skirt. A male angel charging with a spear was narrowly dodged by Binghua. Otherwise, Binghua would be poked with a hole in her body now. Before Binghua could adjust her body shape after just dodging the blow, another male angel came towards her with a spear. This male angel was the captain of the 4-person angel team. Seeing that Binghua was attacked from the flank by his subordinates and was forced to retreat from the extremely fast flight state, as the captain, he naturally could not let go of this good opportunity. Holding the spear in both hands, he flapped his wings with all his strength and sprinted out. When the distance was enough, the male angel squad leader held the end of the spear shaft with his right hand and pushed forward forcefully. The spear in his hand thrust forward like a blazing crossbow arrow. Binghua quickly tilted the sword of the flame sword slightly in front of her, and bent the wall of her left hand to press against the sword. Although she was not familiar with the space battle, she was confident that she would not lose to others when it came to fighting with cold weapons. The sharp spear tip hit the ridge of the flaming sword, and a few sparks shot out, and then the spear tip slid aside on the slightly slanted sword body. The male angel team leader did not expect this turn of events, so he also crashed into Binghua's body. Because it was in the cosmic space without gravity, Binghua was knocked upside down in an instant, but at the same time, a string of blood beads splashed everywhere. The angel captain looked at the wound on his heart in disbelief. Due to the vacuum, a large amount of blood turned into blood beads and flew around. Fire flame level martial arts. The male angel squad leader lost consciousness before he finished speaking. There was still a look of disbelief on his face, as if he didn't believe that he had simply burped. Previously, while Binghua used his left arm to hold the blade of the flaming sword, he also carried out his own flaming dagger. When the spear in the angel squad leader's hand was directed aside by the flaming sword in Binghua's hand, and he couldn't stop sprinting, he bumped into Binghua. Binghua raised the flaming dagger in his left hand, and the sword's edge hit Binghua. Entered the heart of this male angel. Binghua, who was flying upside down, collided with the damaged metal debris of a huge battleship and stopped. As soon as he could control his body, Binghua started calculating in his mind. Connect to the flame sword's built-in weapon computing cloud, start up. Just as Hyuka's Hanji was connecting to the computing cloud built into the flaming sword in his hand, a male angel holding a war spear with no more contempt on his face rushed over and stabbed him with the spear. With the support under his feet, Binghua suddenly felt much more comfortable. He leaned against the metal wall behind him and turned over to the right. Boom! The entire metal wreckage of the battleship was shaken, and the spear in the male angel's hand directly poked a hole in the metal wreckage. Binghua curled his lips, stopped connecting to the computing cloud, flipped the flaming sword in his hand, and slashed it out. The male angel's eyes widened and he wanted to dodge, but the war spear in his hand was too deep into the metal debris and he couldn't pull it out right away, causing his movement to be a bit slow. And in less than a second, the exchange between life and death was completed. Binghua's hands, which he has practiced swordsmanship for more than 100 years, are very steady and will not shake or deviate from the target at all. The flaming sword accurately passed through the neck of the male angel beside him, almost decapitating him. The male angel released his hand holding the weapon and covered his throat with both hands. His eyes popped out with a look of disbelief, but he could not stop the large amount of blood seeping from his fingers. After Binghua finished swinging his sword, he drew his sword and flew to one side without hesitation, because the remaining two male angels had already chased after him with red eyes and spears in hand. Binghua glanced around and found a place where there were many battleship wreckage. A few of them flapped their wings and rushed over, followed naturally by the two tails chasing after them. During the flight, Binghua once again connected to the microcomputing cloud she installed in the flaming sword. Connect to the flaming sword computing cloud. The connection is successful. Start the light and shadow deflection algorithm and the light and shadow refraction algorithm. When they passed a larger battleship wreckage, Binghua's figure began to fade, as if she was wearing an invisibility cloak, and all the light shining on her was deflected in other directions. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 43. The two chasing male angels lost track of Binghua in just a blink of an eye, and quickly looked back to back at the countless floating battleship wreckage around them, for fear of being attacked by Binghua. In less than 2 minutes of fighting, their squad leader and a teammate burped for no apparent reason, which made the remaining two male angels not dare to be careless at all. But what the two of them didn't notice was that a slightly distorted light was slowly approaching the two people back to back. Binghua approached the two male angels at a very slow speed, fearing that the light deflection layer around him would fail if he moved too much. When he was close enough to the two, Binghua began to scan the metal debris floating around, and finally chose a place, activated the light and shadow refraction algorithm, and projected his own image there. Just as the two male angels standing back to back were dazzled by the countless metal debris around them. The male angel on the left suddenly saw Binghua turning his back to them, his figure flashing past a piece of metal debris. "Hey, I found that woman." The male angel who discovered Binghua's trace gently patted his companion's shoulder, spoke in a low voice, then pointed to the location where Binghua was seen just now, and motioned for the two of them to go together. The two men held war spears and gently flapped their wings to approach the target point. But what they didn't know was that behind them, a group of slightly distorted light was quietly approaching. "I'll go up and drive her out first, and then you can give her a fatal blow." The male angel who had discovered Binghua's trace before spoke to his companions about his plan through secret communication. But behind him that he didn't see, a flaming sword came out of the chest of the male angel companion. He shouted to alert his companion in front of him who didn't know there was a sneak attack, but what was regrettable was the sound. It cannot propagate in the vacuum of space. After telling him his plan, the male angel, who received no response for a long time, turned around and saw this scene. Binghua pulled out the flaming sword from behind the male angel in front, stretched out his hand and pushed the male angel who had turned into a corpse away. "You're the only one left." Binghua raised his sword and pointed at the last male angel and said in the open secret communication. The hand of this male angel holding the spear was trembling a little. People can be fearless when there are a large number of companions around them, but when they are alone, fear will take advantage of the situation and destroy people's minds. This is what happened to this male angel at this moment. He was the only one left in the original 4-person team. The other 3 companions were killed by this woman, and he couldn't help but be afraid. As the saying goes, don't perish in fear, just explode in fear. After a few seconds, the male angel roared and rushed towards Binghua with a spear in hand. Binghua was suspended in place and did not move. When the spear tip was about to pierce her body, Binghua turned to one side and dodged the stab by a millimeter. At the same time, Binghua raised his right foot, which was wearing a metal combat boot, and kicked the male angel in the abdomen, causing him to fly backwards like a shrimp. Binghua raised his sword at this time, quickly fanned the angel wings behind him, and caught up with the male angel who was flying upside down. The flaming sword in his hand thrust forward. Phew! At this time, Binghua's own voice was used, and the scorching sword tip pierced the heart of the male angel who was flying upside down like a shrimp. Then Binghua stirred the heavy sword in his hand, and in the next moment he withdrew the flaming sword. Then Binghua didn't do any more checks, turned around, flapped his wings, and flew to the position he was responsible for, leaving only the male angel who had been penetrated through the chest. Male and female angels officially began a fierce melee. Compared with the battle with the affiliated civilizations of the Tiangong order, the death rate of female angels increased linearly. It usually takes 3 or 4 female angels to replace one male angel. The reason why this situation occurs is determined by the nature of both parties. Although the female angel legion has been established for a long time, almost 90% of the legion are new recruits who have never been on the battlefield. On the contrary, although the male angel army has declined since Huaya came to power, after all, they are veterans who have experienced many wars. In addition, the male angel genes have been optimized for combat. It is not surprising that such a battle loss ratio would occur. Surrounded by countless male and female angels fighting with each other, Binghua was naturally among them. She waved the flaming sword in her hand to harvest the lives of the male angels. Compared with before, Binghua has now adapted to fighting in the cosmic environment, and is interspersed in the battlefield to assist her own female angel warriors. At the same time, Binghua's swordsmanship also improved rapidly in the fight. The foundation laid by sword training for hundreds of years was finally fermented at this moment. Gradually, ordinary male angel warriors could not even make a move under Binghua's sword. Attention all angel warriors, please return to support the Skyblade battleship immediately. Such an order suddenly came from the Legion's secret communication, and Binghua, who was slashing the male angel, stopped. At this moment, the male angel opposite Binghua saved his life and turned around to run away. Binghua reacted and quickly looked around. The corpses of countless male and female angels were floating in the vacuum, like a sea of corpses. Sisters, quickly leave the battlefield and return to support the flagship. Binghua shouted loudly in the dark communication, but both sides were already furious. The female angel had a sister who died at the hands of the male angel, and her heart was filled with irresolvable hatred. The same goes for male angels. Their brothers or friends have also died in the hands of female angels. Their hearts are also filled with hatred, without any mercy. In the end, the retreat was successful under Binghua's order, but the losses were also heavy. Under the powerful firepower of the Skyblade battleship and the desperate attack of the returning female angel warriors, the male angels were finally repelled. But the female angel army did not suffer no losses, and had to give up the outer orbital space of Marrow Star. The 4 heavenly blade warships retreated into the atmosphere of Marrow Star in embarrassment, and parked above Marrow homeworld to reorganize their defense formations, relying on the defensive weapons on the surface of Marrow star below. Binghua walked in the corridor inside the side of the Skyblade battleship. The corridor where female angels used to come and go was now almost empty. However, leaning against the wall of the corridor, you can occasionally see a female angel warrior sitting there frustrated. Their armors were full of traces of battle, and their originally fair and delicate faces now turned into cat-like faces. "Sister Binghua, Kyla is dead, we have you." A female angel warrior looked at Binghua with tears in her eyes. She was a second-level guard angel. Angel Lan, Binghua's direct subordinate. But at this moment, she was no longer as optimistic and lively as before the war, and was sobbing while holding Binghua. Binghua was also sad because the Kyla mentioned by Angel Lan in his arms was the young female angel who envied the flaming sword in Binghua's hand that day. Binghua remembered that he said at the time, "It's nothing rare. Feel free to look at it if you want. You will also have the opportunity to allocate the flaming sword in the future." But now Kira has no chance to gain the right to use the flame sword. Thanks to book friend Lu Shangwu Lu Guang for the reward, and 2 other book friends, the number is too long, abbreviated, for their investment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifen Si Wang. Chapter 44. Binghua comforted the angel Lan in her arms and left. She still needed to count the casualties of the female angels under her command. The injured must be sent to the medical area of the Skyblade battleship for treatment as soon as possible, and at the same time, the recruits who are a little emotionally broken must be comforted. This was also a helpless move, because 3 of the second-level guard angels directly under Binghua were killed in the battle, and the remaining 3 would be fine without her comfort. Therefore, the more than 4,000 surviving female angel warriors who returned to the Skyblade battleship all needed Binghua to check on their current situation. And because of the casualties of the second-level guard angels and the third-level guard angels, Binghua was unable to contact these ordinary angel warriors and could only patrol in person. Most of the female angel warriors gathered together in small groups to comfort each other. There were also some teams where only one person was left, leaning against the corner with eyes blank as if she had lost her soul, crying silently. Binghua didn't know how to comfort these female angel warriors whose companions had died, so he could only walk to them and say a dry word to them. Their sacrifices will not be in vain. We must live well and bear their share to witness the colorful future. Binghua found that she had changed a bit. After experiencing this war, she found that she had become a little numb to life. "Because I saw too many, during the patrol, some had their arms cut off, and some had their abdomens pierced by the alloy spears in the hands of male angels." The interior of the originally white Heavenly Blade battleship was no longer as tidy as before, and some places were even stained with blood. But now no one has the intention to clean up these things. After only 2 or 3 hours of fighting, the soldiers of this newly established female angel army have been subjected to the most severe test. Now, taking advantage of the truce that will last for a long time, the female angel warriors are taking a break and are keeping their armor and swords in their hands. Binghua also found a place with few people, and sat cross-legged on the ground against the wall. He placed the flaming sword on his legs and stared blankly at the blood stains on it. In fact, Binghua was thinking, can the female angel really win this war between male and female angels? From Binghua's perspective, this war initiated by Kesha was a losing war. In today's brief battle with the male angels, Binghua didn't know the total number of female angels killed, but his own subordinate Binghua counted it and found that there were more than 4,000 female angel warriors left, and nearly all of them were injured. Come back. In other words, nearly 2,000 female angel warriors have stayed in the battlefield in the outer space of Marrow Star forever and will never come back. I believe that Sister Hexie, Liangbing, Ella, and Kesha herself can understand this, but why do they still do this? This was a casualty rate of 1/3, which was enough to be considered a heavy loss. The female angel legion was already strong-willed without directly collapsing, but its morale also fell to the bottom and was no longer as high as it was before the war. Is Binghua here? Binghua was startled, suddenly came back from his thoughts, and quickly answered. Commander of the Legion, I'm here. What are your battle orders? Binghua asked subconsciously, but then realized that this was no longer wartime. There is no combat mission. Binghua, please come to the main ship lobby to gather. I have an order to issue. It's the Legion commander, I'll be there soon. After Binghua finished speaking, he immediately stood up from the ground and strode towards the main ship hall in Tianren. 2 or 3 minutes later, Binghua quickly walked into a very spacious and luxuriously decorated hall that could accommodate more than 100 people. This is the meeting hall of the Heavenly Sword Legion. When an order is issued, more than 30 first-level guard angels under the Heavenly Sword Legion will gather here to listen to the Legion commander's orders. But at this moment, there were not even 15 first-class guard angels gathered in the hall, and they seemed extremely sparse and cold. At the same time, the 11 first-level guardian angels, including Binghua, all looked miserable. Not to mention the scratches and dents on their armors, some of the armors also had dry dark red blood stains that had not been cleaned in time. Ella, who is now the commander of the Heavenly Sword Army, couldn't help but feel a little sore in her eyes when she looked at the young and tired face below her that was just like her own. These are all his sisters, but under his orders, they rushed to the cruel battlefield without any complaints. But the promise he made to those sisters to be equal to male angels and to live freely has not yet been fulfilled. Ella was wearing an exquisite, gorgeous, and spotless silver armor with a cape, and all her emotions were hidden under her calm face at the moment. Ella looked at the dozen female angel warriors below who were looking at her at the moment, and spoke about the adjustments to the current strength of the Heavenly Sword Legion. Angel Binghua, Angel Ai, Angel Halen. The name of a first-level guardian angel standing in the hall at the moment popped out from Ella's mouth. You take over the surviving soldiers of Angel Nyo, Angel Bing, and Angel La who have died in battle. After the above order was issued, Ella said in a serious tone. Sisters, we don't have much time now. We don't have any extra time for you to adjust your team. First, merge the 5-man combat team that was damaged in this battle to make up for the loss of personnel and restore combat effectiveness as soon as possible. As soon as Ella finished speaking, a first-level guardian angel asked a question. Sister Ella, can we win this battle? A first-level guard angel named Ningbing looked at Ella with hopeful eyes. Many of her sisters had sacrificed their lives, and now she needed the belief to keep fighting. Ella closed her eyes. She didn't want to hit this guardian angel, but she couldn't tell the truth, so she could only say this. I can't promise you anything, but Ningbing. All I can say is that it's worth fighting this battle for female angels. I don't know if the other female angels in the hall understood it, but Binghua somewhat understood it. This war does not matter whether we win or lose, but it must be fought. This is related to the overall interests of female angels. After leaving the hall, the number of female angel warriors under Binghua's command increased from around 4,000 to more than 5,000, approaching the full strength before the war, but Binghua was not happy at all. Just the opposite of the female angels, the Tiangong group fleet parked in the outer space of Marrow Star is currently celebrating today's victory. Huaya and his generals were drinking wine happily while hugging a female angel with a face full of humiliation. Other male angel generals such as Xingyo and Suri also held the female angel captured from the battlefield and drank and talked happily. At the bottom, there are some leaders of affiliated civilizations sitting there alone drinking wine. There are no female angels around them. Although Huaya is a king who advocates hedonism, he will not reward female angels of his own race to the servants of these subordinate civilizations. In Huaya's opinion, only he deserves to have beautiful female angels. Even if he doesn't like them, he will reward them to the male angels under his command. And as the cannon fodder of the affiliated civilization, What qualifications do they have to get involved with the women of the angelic civilization? There is only one update today. I have been a little busy at home recently and am always working overtime. Also thanks to Justice Order for the reward. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 45. Sitting on the throne at the head of the table, Huaya raised the metal wine glass with exquisite carvings in his hand and spoke loudly to the generals below. Everyone, tomorrow we will launch a general attack on the female angels of Merlot's star. Whoever captures those beauties will be theirs. In an instant, echoing laughter came from below. They did not look like advanced civilization at all, but looked like those barbarian bandits who had not yet left the planet. Sister Binghua, wake up! Wake up! In the chaos of consciousness, Binghua suddenly felt someone calling her name. She slowly opened her eyes and found a female angel with a beautiful and delicate face squatting in front of her. What's wrong? Lan. Binghua had just woken up and had not fully regained consciousness, so she subconsciously asked. Sister Binghua, the male angel is about to attack, please wake up. As soon as he heard that the male angel was about to fight, Binghua suddenly woke up and quickly stood up from the ground. Lan, you said the male angels are attacking. Angel Lan nodded, then spoke again. Sister Binghua, we are all ready. Today we must make those male angels pay the price for the sisters who sacrificed for us. 5 giant inverted triangular celestial warships revealed themselves as the tip of the iceberg from the rolling clouds. Just like 5 giant metal peaks hanging upside down in the sky, the female angels in Merlot's home below felt a heavy sense of depression rise in their hearts just by seeing them. However, the female angel had no intention of being cowardly at all, even though she knew that her side did not have as many troops as the Tiangong Group's coalition forces. But the 4 heavenly blade warships were suspended at the 4 corners of the Merlot homeland, forming a horn-like formation to protect the Merlot homeland in the middle. And before the war started, the giant ground-based railgun that Marrow Homestead rushed to produce also raised its thick and ferocious barrel. The white square gun barrel, which is nearly 50 meters long, is also engraved with golden textures, and the 4 silver metal rails at the front are flashing with orange-red energy lightning. The principle of this giant railgun is to use the energy of stars to blast out the highly compressed dark matter energy. The principle is very crude and simple, right? In fact, any god-level civilization can imitate it, but it is simple and practical, so it was optimized by Hexi and used directly. Its power can easily penetrate the flagship shields of civilizations below the god-making civilization. Even celestial warships can open an eye in them with one shot if they are not protected by a layer of shields. No nonsense, both sides blocked each other's dark channels and set up their formations when they came up. Binghua held the flaming sword and the female angel warriors under his command were suspended around the Skyblade battleship. This time their mission was not to attack, but to defend. The various small railguns on the Skyblade battleship began to flatten their barrels, aiming at the male angels and the large number of motley fleets that were already lined up in the distance. However, the Tiangong where Huaya is located is parked in the outer orbital space of Marrow's star. It is surrounded by more than a dozen Tiangong warships guarding him. There are a total of about 10,000 angel guards and 50,000 male angels responsible for protecting Huaya. Yes, safety. It has to be said that Huaya takes his own safety very seriously and keeps the elites of the angel civilization by his side. It can also be said that Huaya is afraid of death. As a second-generation god-building project, his own combat power is comparable to a fleet, but Huaya has never been on the battlefield in person. Because Huaya himself felt that his father, Huake, died in the battle because he did everything personally. In order to enjoy the comfortable life in the palace, Huaya would not put himself into any dangerous situation. Liang Bing, one of the top 4 female angels, is famous throughout Melo Academy for her achievements in space. What if Liang Bing opens a wormhole on the Tiangong, and the female angel wants to carry out a decapitation operation without fear of death or injury, so Hua-Ye is now wrapped in 3 layers, inside and outside, to eliminate any possibility of endangering her own safety. At the same time, Hua-Ye is also paying attention to the battle situation in Maro's star. Countless intersecting beams of light were fired at the formations of both sides. Maro's homeland was like an isolated island surrounded by the sea. There were giant steel ships gathered in all directions. Beams of light and energy missiles trailing flames hit the protective shield of Maro's home, causing waves of ripples. The base of the large turret, which assumed that the female angels did not show any weakness, began to gather energy, and the golden lines on the surface of the long square barrel also began to light up. With an ear-splitting muffled sound, the barrel shook backwards, a violent tide of dark energy spread, and at the same time, a jet-black, slender shuttle-shaped energy was launched from the guide rail of the muzzle. A giant battleship with its energy shield turned on rushed forward in front of the motley fleet. The shield at the beginning was like paper. It was easily penetrated by the jet-black shuttle-type energy bombs, and the entire hull was beaten from beginning to end. Wear it right. On the spot, the 1,000-meter giant ship exploded in the air and disintegrated into a burning wreckage that fell to the green surface below. After rushing several times, the affiliated civilizations under the Tiangong banner were abruptly blocked from the city's protective shield of the Maro homeland, without even touching the edge of the giant shield of the Merlo homeland. Suri, the general under King Tiangong, as the commander-in-chief of this battle, saw the defeat of the subordinate civilization in his eyes. What a waste! With so many troops, even with piles of corpses, they can break through the light energy barrier. How is it? Have you analyzed it? After Suri finished speaking disdainfully, he asked the male angel adjutant beside him without looking back. Report to General Rising Sun, we have analyzed the composition of the female angel shields, the power of their weapons and the location of their energy supply facilities. That's good, pass my order, and the Tiangong flagships will prepare to destroy star energy strikes. I want these female angels who dare to conspire to know what despair means. As soon as Suri started speaking, his adjutant spoke hesitantly. General, but there are still residents and nobles of the angelic civilization on Maro planet. Don't worry, just follow my orders. After all, we can't keep King Hua-Ye waiting for too long, can we? After saying this, Suri raised his head slightly, like a god looking down at Maro's homeland from above. There was no expression on his face, which was covered by the shadow of the bangs on his forehead. Although the adjutant still looked a little hesitant, he didn't say anything in the end because he knew his general's temper well and would not care about any means to achieve his goals. Retreat. Binghua, who was suspended in mid-air, was a little surprised as he looked at the Tiangong-affiliated civilized fleet that was slowly gathering its remnant troops to retreat outside the protective shield, and doubt suddenly arose in his heart. But before Binghua could think about it, the next moment the sky where the Tiangong celestial battleship was parked hundreds of kilometers away suddenly lit up with red light, reflecting the sky for hundreds of miles in red. Then 5 dazzling orange beams, at least several hundred meters thick, fell from the sky and hit the protective shield above Binghua's head. Hexi had boasted to Binghua more than once about the absolute defense weapon. Under the power of the Annihilation Star weapon, the large light energy barrier only lasted a few seconds before being penetrated. Udeo's Annihilation Star energy strike, symbolizing destruction, bombarded Maro's homeland right in front of Binghua's eyes. No sound could be heard. Binghua only felt a dazzling red and white light flash in his sight. Binghua quickly closed his eyes, and then an extremely majestic impact hit him. Thanks to Justice Order, Hong Luiying and Warblade Silver Wings for their rewards. In the past 2 days, a batch of goods has arrived at home, and I have to work overtime, so the number of updates is a bit small. The second update will be made up at noon today. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifen Si Wang. Chapter 46. When Binghua's vision returned, his pupils shrank to the size of pinpoints. He saw that the mellow homeland, which originally covered more than 100 kilometers and had gorgeous and eye-catching buildings, had several large pits with billowing black smoke for more than 10 kilometers. And in the bottomless pit, the reddish magma could still be faintly seen rolling. This cannon actually penetrated the surface of the earth, causing the lava from the ground to surge up. The losses didn't stop there. The energy strikes that fell from the sky were strategically placed. They were either grafted onto facilities that extracted stellar energy or were large orbital base turrets. The impact of the explosion just now also caused countless buildings standing like sharp swords to collapse and tilt. It can be said that just after that moment, Marrow's home was almost completely turned into a ruin. Tell those trash from affiliated civilizations that I have pried open the hardest shell for you. Don't blame me if you still can't eat meat. A herald turned around and ran away after hearing Suri's words, and began to contact those affiliated civilizations. Suri then gave instructions to the adjutant beside him. The flagship named Tiangong pressed forward from above and focused its fire on the celestial warship to the north of the female angel. At the same time, let the angel warriors prepare to attack. I will personally lead the team to capture the opponent's legion commander alive and present it to King Huayet. After Suri said that, he turned and left the command room and walked towards the door. However, there was nothing strange about the other male angels in the command room. As for why Suri didn't stay in the command room, this is the difference between a god-making civilization and an aerospace-grade civilization. The aerospace-level civilization respected power, but when it came to the god-making civilization, it returned to the most primitive era where power was respected. As the commander-in-chief of the entire army, Suri is one of the few third-generation super soldiers in the angel civilization. It would be a waste of such high-end combat power to just stay in the command room. Countless small fighters flew around the 4 Skyblade battleships, but most of them were destroyed by the dense orbital turrets on the Skyblade battleships. The worst-case scenario is not this, but the 5 ships in the sky filled with male angel warriors, gradually approaching the Tiangong flagship of the Skyblade battleship. Slowly, the 5 Tiangong flagships began to land, and the sky above Melo's homeland became crowded in an instant. A total of 10 celestial warships with a size of dozens of kilometers were suspended in the sky above Mero's homeland, covering the land hundreds of kilometers below in shadow. Both Kesha's Skyblade and He-11 and Liangbing's Skyblade battleships faced off against a Tiangong flagship. Only the Skyblade, the flagship of the Sky Sword Legion to which Binghua belonged, was surrounded by 2 Tiangong flagships. The two sides were thousands of meters apart and used the turrets on the battleships to shoot at each other, but they were all blocked by the other side's thick shield. Since long-range firepower cannot kill the opponent for the time being, let's drop super soldiers to see who can sink the opponent first. The male and female angels who were originally suspended inside the shields of their respective celestial battleships saw small holes appearing in the shields in front of them. It is said that when enemies meet, they become extremely jealous. This is the case with the female angel today. Under the orders of their respective superiors, the first-level guardian angels, the female angel warriors rushed toward the male angel warriors with red eyes and weapons raised, holding the thought of revenge for their sisters. A bloody war like the most primitive cavalry collision and charge was taking place at this moment. A female angel warrior took advantage of her momentum and stabbed the male angel in front of her with a spear in her hand. But the next moment, another male angel used the acceleration of the charge to pierce his chest with a shot, and the splashing blood dyed the ruins below red. The corpses of male and female angels fell from the sky like dumplings and hit the ground below. Binghua held a flaming sword and rushed left and right, which was different from ordinary female angels. Binghua's fighting consciousness was fully displayed at this moment, and he used various tiny dodge movements to avoid the male angel who was charging towards him with a war spear. Binghua slashed his sword through the chest of a male angel and kicked him away without waiting for the blood from his wound to spurt out. Then Binghua's upper body tilted back slightly, and a war spear flew past in front of him. As soon as the male angel sprinting with a war spear passed by Binghua's face, Binghua quickly grabbed the collar of his armor. Then Binghua pulled his cantilever back, then raised the flaming sword in his right hand horizontally, and then stabbed out fiercely. Puff! The male angel who had just attacked Binghua died unexpectedly, his chest pierced by the flaming sword. Binghua threw away the male angel in his hand as if throwing away garbage, and then charged forward with his horizontal sword. When he passed by a male angel, the flaming sword in his hand slashed through his body like a blazing red horse. While the male and female angels were fighting, the two Tiangong flagships were not idle and began to slowly approach the sky blade in the middle. On one of the Tiangong flagships, Suri was standing on the outer platform of the celestial battleship at his feet, issuing orders via dark communication. Tiangong flagship number 1 and Tiangong flagship number 2 obey the order and activate the shield energy value to the maximum. Since it will not be broken for a while, just break their shields for me. As soon as Suri's order was given, the shields of the two Tiangong flagships that were outflanking the Heavenly Blade battleship in the middle suddenly became solid. Ella, commander of the Heavenly Sword Legion who was sitting in the command room at this moment, also heard the reports from the female angels below. Reporting to the commander of the army, two enemy celestial warships are approaching quickly and have blocked the space nodes around us. It is estimated that it will take 15 minutes to crack the space nodes. Ella frowned tightly, and her hands holding the flaming sword in front of her tightened. Do your best to crack the space nodes, and at the same time be prepared to prevent the enemy from logging onto the ship. In addition, connect with Kaisha, Hexi, and the Tianren battleship where Liangbing is. As soon as Ella's order was given, the female angel below began to operate. Binghua, who was holding a spear with his sword horizontally below, flicked his wrist and shook the spear to one side. Then he thrust forward and slashed the throat of the male angel opposite him with the flame-level dagger in his left hand. At this moment, a harsh noise entered his eardrums, causing Binghua to subconsciously cover his ears. At this moment, there were not many people like Binghua, because above their heads, the shields loaded on the three celestial battleships finally collided together. Where the two Tiangong flagships collided with the shields of the Heavenly Blade battleship, severe energy annihilation occurred, and the huge energy had nowhere to vent and turned into a joyful white-blue arc. I have to say that Tiangong is very shameless. The shield energy power of the celestial battleship is extremely huge, and it is extremely difficult to break through it. Now the Tiangong side is using the shields of two celestial battleships to oppress Tianren. The shield of one celestial battleship is bullying you because you have fewer people. And with the further pressure from the shields of the two Tiangong flagships, the power of the shield generator mounted on the Tianren battleship soon could not keep up with the consumption. Although it did not reach the level of black smoke, it was similar. Due to the energy conflict between the two shields, a large hole of tens of meters soon appeared where the shields of the Heavenly Blade battleship and the Tiangong flagship collided with each other. The shell finally let me pry it open. Come with me and break into the enemy ship. There will be a reward for capturing the enemy's Legion commander alive. Suri raised his giant sword and pointed at the Sky Blade battleship, which was just around the corner. At this time, I will make up for yesterday's second update, and I will update it tonight. And thank you to Justice Order for another reward. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 47. After the harsh sizzling sound disappeared, Binghua put down his hands covering his ears and quickly looked up at the sky above his head. The large light energy barrier that enveloped the entire Heavenly Blade battleship violently shattered into countless transparent fragments, like broken glass shards. Although the picture was gorgeous and beautiful, Binghua felt a little chilled because the various small turrets on the Tiangong flagship raised their muzzles one after another. The next moment, countless fires exploded on the armor of the Skyblade battleship, which had gorgeous golden patterns. Just as Binghua was looking at it, a spear suddenly stabbed Binghua from behind. A harsh metallic sound exploded, and a female angel used her sword to push away the war spear that was stabbing Binghua. Then he stepped forward and hit the male angel, who sneaked up on Binghua with a knee. The female angel warned Binghua's back and spoke at the same time. "Sister Binghua, be careful behind you." Binghua also realized that there was no room for her to be distracted on the battlefield, so she quickly raised the flaming sword in her hand and glanced around with a pair of black eyes. "Thanks, Angel Ran." "No need to thank Sister Binghua, as long as you are fine." Binghua bit her lip and made a decision in her heart, and issued an order in the dark communication channel. "Sisters, the shield of the flagship has been damaged. Those sisters who can free their hands will follow me back to the ship to organize defense." There was a reply from the dark communication channel. This is a large dark communication channel created by Binghua, and nearly 6,000 female angel warriors under her command are all in this channel. Binghua's orders no longer need to be relayed by the second-level guard angels and third-level guard angels, which improves the execution ability of the female angel army under his command several times. Just like now, when Binghua gave an order, hundreds of female angel warriors who had eliminated the opponents in front of them immediately followed Binghua and flew towards the Skyblade flagship overhead. The two Tiangong flagships kept pouring artillery fire on the Tianren battleship in the middle. But as a celestial battleship, the strength of the Heavenly Blade exceeded Tiangong's expectations. Celestial-class battleships are generally the products of God-making civilizations, and their diameters are generally more than 20 kilometers. As the flagship of the Female Angel Legion, the Celestial-class battleship Skyblade has many functions, including a combat platform, large-scale destructive weapons, space jumping, self-sufficiency, etc., and its own strength is beyond common sense. Therefore, in the face of the concentrated fire from the Tiangong flagship, the Tianren battleship had nothing but countless small dents on its astonishingly thick external armor. Ella in the bridge command room couldn't feel even a single shock. She just knew that the shield of the battleship she was riding on had been breached. "Fight back. At the same time, order the escort angels in the ship to guard the space jump area and the small ship-based escape ship. That is our last resort." After Ella's words fell, a female angel below sent news that the connection with Kesha, Liang Bing, and He-11's Skyblade battleship had been successfully completed. Below, in front of Ella, 3 projection screens of Kesha, Liang Bing, and He-11 appeared. In the picture, Hexi Kesha and others looked solemn. Ella spoke first. "Kesha, we underestimated the male angel's combat power, and now we can no longer contain Marrow Star." "Ella, I was reckless. We shouldn't have had a direct showdown with Huaye so early." Kesha looked a bit remorseful when she spoke, but no 1% blamed Kesha, because this was agreed upon by the 4 of them. "Kesha, what's going on over there in Tiancheng?" He-11 suddenly asked. Ella and Liang Bing's expressions became a little nervous, and they looked at Kesha on the screen with a little expectancy. But Kesha didn't reply immediately. Her eyes were slightly absent-minded, and after more than 10 seconds, she spoke in surprise. "Ella, let me tell you some good news. The operation on Tianquan's side has been successful, and we can retreat as originally planned." For a moment, Ella, Liang Bing, and He-11, who had originally looked solemn, were relieved, and then immediately issued the order regardless of the projection screen that was not turned off. Ella did the same and quickly issued an order downwards. "Tell the angels fighting outside to return to the Skyblade battleship immediately. Remember to be quick." Then Ella spoke to another female angel. "Hurry up and calculate the coordinates of the space nodes left in advance by the surrounding galaxies, and be ready to jump away from Marrow Star at any time." As soon as Ella's order came down, a female angel who controlled the projection screen reported loudly. Report to the commander of the army that a male angel troop has invaded the interior of the battleship and is rushing towards the command room. Ella stood up with a sudden sound and spoke in a startled voice. Hurry up and bring up the picture. The next second a projection screen appeared in front of Ella. I saw a group of male angels running rampant in the passage inside the Skyblade battleship. Especially the blonde and muscular male angel who took the lead. He waved the giant sword in his hand and killed the guarding angels as easily as he beat a child. Ella clenched her fists together and clenched her teeth together. Chief Executive Officer of Tiangong City, the third-generation super soldier Rising Sun. Binghua rushed into the Tianren battleship through the entrance. Before Binghua could contact the command room, Ella's order came over. All first-level escort angels, please return to the flagship as soon as possible to prevent the enemy from destroying the Skyblade battleship. This command was repeated several times in Binghua's dark communication channel before it stopped. Sisters, you stay here to stop other invading enemies. Binghua casually called out to a dozen warriors to follow him, then spread his wings and flew in the corridor inside the Skyblade at high speed. Suri raised the sword with one hand, and then made a simple downward slash, directly cutting the female angel who was blocking the sword in front of her into two halves, including the weapon and the person. They are all the first generation, they are really weak. Suri took the blood-stained giant sword away from the body of the female angel and commented disdainfully. Spread out, find me their command room, and tell me. It's the executive officer. The male angels gathered around Suri shouted, and then rushed into the surrounding passages in a team of 4. Suri, on the other hand, strode toward the end of the passage with a huge sword in his hand, like a tiger patrolling his territory. Sisters, stop him. A first-level guard angel and 3 second-level guard angels holding a flaming sword appeared from both ends of the passage, blocking the rising sun. With a sound, Suri stood the giant sword in his hand on the ground beside him, and looked at the 4 female angels who had pulled down their helmets and visors with playful eyes, revealing only a few strands of blonde hair. If you have the courage to lay down your weapons and surrender, I will spare your life. Stop dreaming, we will not regret dying for Commander Ayla. Take your life. A female angel obviously couldn't bear it anymore. She jumped up and struck down with a sword. Because behind Suri was the bodies of female angels lying in a pool of blood, she couldn't calm down at all. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 48. It's just the barking of the weak. Suri looked at the silver-heavy sword coming towards him, his eyes unmoved, but the hand hanging by his side holding the huge sword moved violently. A slightly dazzling silver reflection was seen, and the next moment the female angel who jumped into the air was pierced through the abdomen by a giant sword. The female angel's whole body was hanging on the giant sword raised by the rising sun, and countless bright red bloodlines were spreading and dripping on the sword that had penetrated her body. With a clang, the female angel lost her strength, the heavy sword in her hand fell to the ground, and her angry eyes behind her visor gradually lost their luster. Night. The other 3 female angels remaining in the corridor shouted in grief, and then they rushed over together, raising their weapons and trying to cut the rising sun into pieces to vent their hatred. Suri held the sword with one hand and turned to the side to throw away the body of the female angel hanging on the giant sword. Then he stepped forward and looked leisurely at the 3 female angels who were coming towards him with swords. The next moment, the extremely heavy sword in Suri's hand swung horizontally and slashed upwards, compressing all the air forward. The 3 female angels flew out instantly, and then Suri walked forward step by step. A female angel who had just stood up was suddenly knocked away by the giant sword in Suri's hand like a baseball, knocking a dent into the silver passage wall and then passed out. The female angel holding the flaming sword covered her chest and started fighting. She let out a decisive shout and thrust forward with the wings behind her back. I really don't know what your Legion commander is thinking. How did you, who are so fragile, come up with the idea of resisting King Hua yet? Suri only dodged the flaming sword with a slight turn of his body. Then his left hand reached out like lightning and pinched the female angel's neck. Suri was more than 1.8 meters tall, and the first-level guard angel whose neck was held by him was directly dangling with his feet off the ground. "It's such a shame you women." After saying that, Suri used his fingers hard and pinched the neck of the female angel in his hand without mercy. With a click, the struggling female angel stopped moving. Binghua leaned forward and flew, followed closely by more than a dozen female angel warriors. Just now, the commander of the Sky Sword Legion, Ella, issued another order to let all the female angels fighting outside return to the Sky Blade battleship as soon as possible. Although Binghua didn't know why the Legion commander would issue such an order, this battle really couldn't continue like this, otherwise the whole army would be annihilated sooner or later. Suddenly, at the end of the passage ahead, a female angel holding the armor on her chest and staggering ran out. She seemed to be exhausted and fell to the ground. She struggled to stretch out her blood-stained palm in the direction of Binghua, as if to seemingly asking for help. "What's the situation?" Seeing this, Binghua speeded up, but the next moment he suddenly stopped flying, and his dark eyes suddenly opened wide. "I saw a tall, handsome blonde man walking out right after the fallen female angel, stepping on the female angel's back, and then raised the giant sword in his hand and dropped it directly. The metal armor was like a thin piece of paper that was easily penetrated by a giant sword, and the palm of the female angel's hand reaching out to Binghua for help also fell to the ground weakly. The reason why Binghua stopped was because the male angel was unhurriedly pulling out the weapon from his companion's body. A feeling of extreme danger arose in Binghua's mind. When the male angel looked over, Binghua's hair stood on end as if electric current was flowing through his body. Binghua stopped, but the female angel warrior she brought could not, especially after the male angel killed a female angel in front of them. "Kill him! Avenge the sisters!" Binghua shouted. "Danger! Come back quickly!" But it was too late. Several female angel warriors had already rushed in front of the male angel. Suri frowned slightly. These female angels came one after another, which made her very tired. Until now, no news has been sent to her subordinates. It seems that the command room of the female angels has not been found yet. However, even though he was impatient, Suri still swung the giant sword in his hand with one hand and slashed it horizontally. The blade easily broke through the armor worn by the female angels in front of him, and then passed through their delicate bodies without any obstruction. The dazzling bright red was like a flying red cloth, splashing on the holy silver wall, painting it the color of blood. Binghua's open lips hadn't closed yet, but the being she wanted to remind had already fallen into a pool of blood. In the next moment, Binghua abandoned all fear and everything else, clenched her upper and lower silver teeth together, a pair of delicate eyebrows raised like a sharp sword, and a strong sharp aura spurted out. Suri's calm eyes like the eyes of a dead fish showed a slight sparkle. He raised his head and looked at the tight ice flower in his fist. "It seems that not all female angels are ordinary people. Who are you?" Binghua raised his sword and pointed at Suri and asked. "It makes no difference whether you know or not." Suri didn't stop and was walking towards Binghua step by step, as if no one could stop his progress. Binghua was silent, but his heart sank because Binghua had fought against the second-generation super warrior. Although the second-generation super soldier is very strong, Binghua is confident that he still has a glimmer of hope of victory. But the man in front of him made Binghua feel invincible, just like when he faced his father when he was a child. The third-generation super soldier. Hearing Binghua talking to himself, Suri raised his eyebrows slightly, but didn't pay too much attention to it. "You all get out of here, this is not something we can fight against." As soon as Binghua finished speaking, the 11 or 12 angel warriors behind him spoke reluctantly. "Sister Binghua, we are not afraid. If we go together, we don't believe we can't kill him. This is an order. It's useless for you to stay here, because only the flaming sword in my hand can hurt him." Seeing Binghua say this, although these female angel warriors were unwilling to do so, they still turned around and left here. When Binghua saw them all leaving, she no longer hesitated, and her mind immediately sank into the dark plane. Connect to the built-in computing cloud of the flaming sword, start the electric energy conversion algorithm, load the electric energy derivation formula, and set the carrier to the flaming sword. Crackling. Little finger-thick arcs of electricity traveled above the flames, making a somewhat harsh chirp at the same time. This is an effect that the built-in computing cloud installed in Binghua and the flaming sword can only exert its full power. These days in Marrow Star, Binghua has not been idle. Binghua raised the flaming sword wrapped with electric arcs in his hand. He stepped on the ground without saying a word, and jumped forward. The sword in his hand broke through the air and struck down suddenly. Interesting. The giant sword lay in front of him like a thick shield. At the same time, Suri spit out these two words. He instantly understood the principle of Binghua's move. The next moment, the flaming sword wrapped with lightning struck the blocking giant sword, violently exploding into a wave of air mixed with countless electric arcs. Today, I would like to thank Justice Order for the 2 rewards, and the reward of Houting Yuk. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 49. Turbulent airwaves mixed with electric arcs swept around, and Binghua's eyes behind the helmet visor were glowing with bloodshot eyes as he stared down at the rising sun, which was immovable as a mountain with his sword raised. Seeing that the attack was blocked, Binghua pulled back the flaming sword in his hand and violently somersaulted backwards. The giant sword in Suri's hand rubbed Binghua's back-flipping body and slashed upward. Seeing Binghua dodge, Suri's hand holding the sword hilt smoothly made a horizontal slash. There was a tearing sound, and the air seemed to be cut into 2 halves by the sharpness of the giant sword, but it was dodged by Binghua in mid-air with a timely maneuver. As soon as Binghua landed on the ground, he bent his knees and squatted down, his fair thigh muscles tense, and he held the flaming sword in his right hand and pointed at the rising sun. The electric snakes clung to the silver-gray frosted blade of the flame sword again. At the same time, Binghua raised his left hand and opened it in front of him. His eyes stared at the rising sun through the gaps between his fingers. Then he flapped his wings behind his back and rushed out into a white phantom. But the next moment, Binghua's rushing figure suddenly stopped in the air, and the right arm holding the sword trembled slightly. No matter how the wings on his back flapped, he could not move forward even 1 centimeter. All sounds disappeared at this moment, leaving only the harsh chirping of the arc. The ice flower held by Suri with only one hand suddenly stabbed the tip of his flaming sword, and the jumping arc could not cause any harm to him. Binghua's eyes suddenly shrank. With sharp eyes, she saw that the skin of Suri's hand holding the flaming sword with his bare hands had a faint layer of dark orange energy light film, like a burning orange flame, but the inside was indeed deep black. You are quite talented. Just a first-generation super soldier can master the basic application of dark energy conversion. If you were my subordinate, I would definitely teach you well. It's a pity that you are a woman. Suri was talking to himself when he was greeted by Binghua. Do you look down on women? Maybe you will die at the hands of a woman that day. After saying this, Binghua decisively let go of the hilt of the flaming sword, stepped back more than 10 meters, and put his numb and trembling hands behind his back. At the same time, Binghua's breastplate was also rising and falling. The confrontation just now was very thrilling, and the breath that Binghua had been holding finally came out at this moment. Suri threw the flaming sword in his hand to his side, making a swaying sound. I don't think there will be such a day. It will take you female angels at least 10,000 years to make up for the gap between the first and third generation warriors, and I will not give you this opportunity. Suri stepped forward to deal with this talented female angel, but suddenly news from his subordinates came through the dark communication channel. "General, we have discovered the location of the opponent's command room, and the opponent is evacuating urgently. Please ask the general to come over as soon as possible. There are too many enemies and we cannot stop them for much time." Then Suri received the map coordinates transmitted by his male angel. Suri returned his attention to Binghua, and the next moment he suddenly appeared in front of Binghua, raising his giant sword high. "If you can survive the sword attack, it means you don't deserve to die." After Suri said that, he just raised the giant sword and slashed at Binghua. At this moment, Binghua only had the falling giant sword in her eyes. She felt like an executioner being fixed on the guillotine, and the falling sword blade was like a guillotine. Shocked in his heart, Binghua immediately came to his senses, but it was too late to dodge the slashing blade. In the end, he only had time to carry out the flame-level dagger and raise his hand to block it in front of him. There was a loud sound like a battering ram hitting the steel city gate, and the spreading violent airflow hit the wall, shaking the entire passage. Binghua flew out like a piece of rag, smashing through a metal wall and not knowing whether he was alive or dead. Suri swung his sword and wasted no time. He turned around, spread his wings, and rushed towards the position given by his men at high speed. As he said, if Binghua didn't die, it meant that she didn't deserve to die. By the time Binghua regained consciousness, Suri's figure had long since disappeared. As soon as he wanted to get up from the ground, he felt bursts of stinging pain all over his body. Then his throat felt sweet, and Binghua opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of dark red blood. The pain in his chest eased slightly. His dark eyes began to look around, and he saw the bright silver flame-level dagger falling not far away. Because his right arm was in extreme pain, Binghua immediately stretched out his left hand and grabbed the dagger. Binghua endured the pain and tried to get up, but as soon as he moved his body, a stinging pain that penetrated into the bone marrow was transmitted to his brain, and Binghua's beautiful face was distorted by the sour feeling. In the end, Binghua couldn't stand up after trying several times, so he could only sit there with his back against the wall and his head in a daze. He couldn't move his right arm at all, and whenever he moved it was a heart-piercing pain, so painful that Binghua had tears in his eyes. Maybe a woman's body is too sensitive to pain. Although Binghua didn't have any medical skills, she could still feel that her injuries were definitely serious. Although the sword that Suri struck just now was finally blocked by the flame-level dagger in his hand, the power contained in it was not something that Binghua, a first-generation super soldier, could withstand. At this moment, a rush of footsteps came, and Binghua immediately tightened his grip on the flame-level dagger in his left hand, and his body tensed up. Binghua suddenly felt a little scared. She was afraid that a group of male angels were coming. It would be better if she was killed directly, otherwise her fate would definitely be miserable. It may be because of the injury that Binghua showed fear. Before, she didn't have a trace of fear even when she fought with male angels on the battlefield. When the owner of the footsteps appeared from around the corner, Binghua relaxed and almost fainted. It turned out that a group of female angel warriors arrived, and the leader was a second-level guard angel under his command, named Angel Ran. There was a crisp sound of metal hitting, and 4 or 5 guardian angels flew out and fell hard to the floor. Dozens of female guard angels gathered in the 100-meter-wide hall. They closely guarded the Legion commander Ella behind them, and they all stared nervously at the broken door. In the surging black smoke, a tall figure wearing bright silver chainmail stepped into the hall, followed by more than a dozen male angels holding war spears. "Kill them and capture the enemy's army commander alive." Suri raised his broad-blade giant sword and spoke in a cold tone, and the male angel behind him shouted yes in unison. Then more than a dozen male angels holding silver spears spread their wings across the rising sun and pounced on the female angel warrior protecting Ella. Suri walked forward step by step, a layer of dark orange flame glowing on his body. 5 or 6 female angels looked at each other and rushed towards the rising sun with swords in hand. I saw a layer of dark orange energy suddenly appearing on the giant sword in Suri's hand. It seemed that this energy exuded extremely terrifying high temperatures. The outermost layer of energy burned with a burning orange flame, and the space burned by it showed a slight glow. Distortion. There is only one update today and 2 updates tomorrow. I would like to thank Justice Order for their continued rewards, as well as Gongzikan and Liu Zhangwu Liu Guang for their rewards. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 50. Suri swept the giant sword covered with a layer of burning orange flames in his hand, and suddenly a fan-shaped sword energy of burning orange flew out. The female angels who rushed towards them were instantly knocked away by the sword energy, and even their armor was deformed and dented by the impact. Rising Sun's forward momentum continued unabated, heading towards numerous female angel warriors. Every time he raised the giant sword in his hand, he could knock away several female angels. The giant sword thrust straight out, breaking the blocked alloy heavy sword and piercing the chest of the female angel holding the sword. Then Suri's hand holding the sword moved forward, and the female angel hanging on the tip of the sword flew out and hit the female angel behind him. Then the giant sword in Suri's hand swung to the side, and the broad blade was like a fly swatter, swatting 2 or 3 female angels away. Ella stood there watching the rising sun kill all the guardian angels, her right hand holding the hilt of the special flaming sword tightly. The 2 people standing in front of her were her direct subordinates. One was the command messenger Angel Zi with a golden ponytail, and the other was the tactical analysis officer Angel Ken. Legion Commander, please leave quickly, let's hold him back. Angel Zi and Angel Ken both held flaming swords. Among them, Angel Ken turned his head and said anxiously to Ella behind him. However, although Ella looked solemn, she showed no fear and just remained silent. In the end, Ella seemed to have made a decision, and the solemnity on her face gradually disappeared. Zi, convey the last order for me. You are the commander of the army. Zi turned her head and looked at the Legion commander Ella with her mouth slightly raised, but when she saw the determination in his eyes, she said nothing and just nodded heavily. Binghua, who was being carried by his female angel warriors towards the space jump device area of the Heavenly Blade battleship, suddenly received a wide area secret communication order from the Legion commander's order conveyor Guanzi. All the angel warriors of the Heavenly Sword Legion, now convey the Legion commander's final order. All angel warriors who have retreated to the Sky Blade flagship, please immediately board the Sky Blade escape ship and perform a space jump to leave the Marrow Galaxy and abandon the Sky Blade flagship. Now the order is repeated again. Please all the angel warriors belonging to the Skyship Legion, immediately board the escape ship and perform a space jump to leave the Marrow Galaxy and abandon the Sky Blade flagship. The female angels who were carrying Binghua forward paused for a moment, but then it became clear that the female angels around them had stepped up their steps a lot. The journey was smooth, and soon Binghua was carried by his companions to the location where the Sky Blade battleship was carrying the escape ship. It is said to be an escape ship, but it is actually 200 to 300 meters long. The whole thing is like a thick dagger laid horizontally, and the surface of the ship has carefully designed gorgeous patterns. As soon as he boarded the escape ship Binghua, his female angels placed him in the ship's treatment cabin, which was like a crystal coffin. As soon as Binghua lay down, he quickly lost consciousness and passed out. A hazy white light continued to scan his body while repairing the damage on Binghua's body. Then the entire escape ship sailed into the space insect gate that the shipyard had already calculated, and disappeared into the Sky Blade battleship. This scene was staged at many docks where escape ships were parked in the Sky Blade battleship, but not all female angels were as lucky as Binghua. Some female angels who were tightly entangled by male angels had no chance to board the escape ship, and fell into a pool of blood on the retreat road. Hua Ye, who was in the outer space orbit of the Marrow Galaxy, was still drinking a small drink, accompanied by several female angels wearing white gauze skirts. Hey, it seems that soon I will see Kesha's proud woman kneeling at my feet in humiliation. Hwaya laughed happily as he said this, because on the projection screen in front of him, one of the 4 heavenly blade battleships of the female angel legion was about to be captured. According to the intelligence just transmitted, Rising Sun has blocked one of the opponent's legion commanders in the battleship. As long as the female angel's senior management is captured alive, I believe that the energy algorithm to crack the shield of the Skyblade battleship will be obtained soon. When the time comes, no matter Kesha, Hexi, or Liangbing will be their prisoners, and they won't be able to play however they want. Suddenly, an angel from the Imperial Guard ran over in a panic, half knelt down under the throne where Hwaya was sitting, and said loudly, "Report to the king of Tiangong. Why are you panicking? Just talk to me." Hwaya was in a good mood, and he just raised his eyebrows to signal the male angel below to calm down and speak slowly. Reporting to the king of Tiangong, urgent news just came from Tiancheng. A large group of female angels attacked the Central Academy of Sciences in Tiancheng, causing a large number of casualties and taking away many scientific researchers. Hwaya suddenly stood up from his seat and stared at the half-kneeling male angel. "What? You're saying it again?" The female angels of the brigade attacked the Central Academy of Sciences in Tiancheng and kidnapped many scientific research officers. At the same time, a large amount of research information was leaked. Now General Chen Tian, who is staying in Tiancheng, has sent out the Imperial Guard to pursue them. The Praetorian Guard angel repeated it again, and in more detail. Hwaya crushed the wine glass in his hand into a ball of twisted metal and threw it, exploding with swear words. "What does Chen Tian do for food? Have all the resources I invested in him been fed to pigs? How can a female angel break through Tianquan's defense system?" Hwaya asked loudly, and the male angel below who was delivering the order did not dare to say a word. "Can you please calm down?" At this time, a favored female angel came closer, but was pushed to the ground by Hwaya with a wave of his hand. "Go away, this is none of your business. Connect to Chen Tian. I want to know what's going on in Tiancheng immediately." The next moment, the projection broadcasting the battle on Marrow Star disappeared, and a male angel with a resolute face appeared. "See the King of Heavenly Palace." The male angel in the projection is Chen Tian, a general of the Tiangong group who stayed in Tiancheng. "Stop saluting, what's going on in Tiancheng? How did those girls get into Tiancheng?" Chen Tian in the projection put down his saluting hands and then spoke. "King of Heavenly Palace, according to my speculation, the female angels may have been lurking in the celestial city for a long time. Just an hour ago, about 10,000 female angels suddenly raised their troops and attacked the Central Academy of Sciences. Moreover, judging from the weapons seized by his subordinates, those who attacked the Academy of Sciences must be the elite among the female angels. You damn elites, I am attacking their base camp. Is that bitch Kessa the one who is sick and will transfer the elite angels under his command?" Hwaya walked around a few times and glanced at Chen Tian, who looked a little confused in the projection, and waved his hand to let it go. "Forget it, go and do your work first. Everything will be clear once I get it done here." Chen Tian bowed again. "Then my subordinate will resign immediately." After saying this, the projection screen disappeared, and Hwaya did not choose to sit back on the throne immediately. Instead, he gave instructions to the male angel who was still half kneeling on the ground to obey the order. "Give me an order to tell the Suri family to stop complaining and to move faster for me." Ayla took advantage of the time when the guardian angel blocked the rising sun with his life, and used the dark communication channel to connect Kesha, Hexi, and Liangbing. "Kesha, Hexi, Liangbing, hurry up and space jump out of the Marrow Galaxy while the Sky Blade shield is still there. I'll be the one to break up the rear. Hexi, can you please transmit the operating code of that device?" Ella's tone was very calm, but after hearing what she said, the girl's Kesha became uneasy.